back to having limitations on some of the indoor and outdoor dining, so groups of up to 6 people. They are not restricted to your own household, but earlier provisions, which we had in place for craft breweries and wine tastings, will also apply, and liquor licenses will be limited to liquor serving until 10 p.m.
But they're shutting down the bars
in the area, and they are under very strict reopening plans, and they can remain and operated under these current guidelines and restrictions, but must comply with the restaurant guidance that we've outlined. In terms of fitness and facilities, the indoor low-intensity group exercise will still be able to continue with capacity limits, and indoor high-intensity group exercise will be suspended for this period of time. We know that it is a place that people go to have vacations, to meet up with others, and now we need to limit the numbers of people who can be in vacation rentals, accommodations, including houses, boats and houseboats, to limit to 5 people plus the occupants. Very similar to what we had in place last summer when we started to see transmission in these events that were happening in the vacation rentals.
They're talking about a Delta variant.
The mandate, of course, that was implemented last week by Interior Health will continue to be in place for all indoor public places. And to remind people that
this is on live stream
by bylaw officers
quote
and
unquote
environmental health officers
right
in
now.
Central Okanagan. We know that many people have plans already, and there is a transition plan for this weekend. If you have travel planned this weekend to the Central Okanagan, we strongly consider that you change your travel plans, either reschedule or postpone. There are many things going on in the Central Okanagan right now that need the attention of the local community.
Now it's a question of whether I want to get into trouble with YouTube talking about this.
These restrictions on parties,
even though
rental accommodation,
right, it directly relates to my province and in the here and now, on the fly.
Can't change those.
I just don't have the camera on the computer screen. I'm letting you hear this though.
That as far as
we're on August
possible,
6th.
Unimmunized people should not attend these events, whether it's a wedding or a birthday party or a formal
conquer and divide.
People should wear masks. They should stay seated. And
they had 1 month of
rules.
Somewhat freedom.
Really important were people to keep a list of who is at these events.
But all of a sudden,
that now there has been
not anymore
from people who've traveled to the Central Okanagan and moved back to different areas.
This is why I'm doing the food storage, people.
Who has been in that area to self-monitor, and if you're at an event this weekend, make sure that you know how to contact the people who are at that event.
I'm trying to motivate others around me that watch my videos.
If you have symptoms, getting tested
to go and do a little bit more food preparation just in case.
Beginning next week on Monday. All the other measures that
it doesn't impact these people when the shipping lines and railways and ports and the food supply shuts down. Okay?
If you have traveled recently to the Central Okanagan, you need to know that this virus is spreading rapidly. It is much more transmissible, as we have seen in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. You must monitor yourself for symptoms and get tested if any arise. This is not where we want it to be, obviously, right now. And we know, however, that we can make a tremendous impact in slowing. And we know that this is a focal outbreak. There is absolutely increasing levels of transmission in communities around the province.
Did you understand that sign language?
That we are going to have more social connections, those much needed social connections.
It's called forked tongue.
Not had for these last few months. But stopping this
talking out of the ear, man.
To get this rapid increase, particularly among people who are not yet protected, means that we have to take additional measures in this area. So I just did a video on this like
a couple of weeks ago
who are at risk,
where they're talking about letting everybody just be free.
Immunization doesn't have as strong an effect.
But we know that they're keeping up with Australia and places like that.
Means that vaccination rates, getting vaccinations up, will make a difference.
They're at 80% of the population. How much more can they go up, people?
We know that this is a challenging time for people in the Central Okanagan and all through the interior health region, living with the challenges of this pandemic.
I think I did a little video on BitChute, kind of, on this subject. I'll just provide the link
will allow us
into this video, because this one's going up on YouTube. I mean, I'm going to show you what I'm working on. I just thought I'd take a chance and listen to this.
Make it available to people across the Okanagan. Now more than ever,
but it really upsets me.
To roll up their sleeves.
They're evacuating people from the interior of the province because of fires.
Measures to get through this pandemic, and that we will make a difference in time. Thanks to vaccines, we have the tools now to stop outbreaks in their tracks.
That's why we're in the middle of one and everybody's on lockdown practically again.
The best thing you can do,
right? Like, how is
restrictions, is to get vaccinated today and encourage everyone
and don't go out
to do the same.
Don't do anything. Don't go nowhere.
Doing the things that we love and being with the people that we love. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Sue Pollock, Chief Medical Officer of Health and Interior Health.
What does this person have to say?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Minister Dix and Dr. Henry.
See, listening to this stuff just makes you want to shut down.
Of the Silk people.
Right?
And I'd also like to acknowledge that Interior Health is
unless you're oblivious
chartered communities and situated on the
in terms of being ignorant and naive to what's really going on.
As Minister Dix and Dr. Henry have said, the Central Okanagan COVID-19 outbreak continues to develop. Last week, Interior Health placed a regional mandatory mask order, strengthened immunization and testing strategies, and we re-emphasized the Step 3 restrictions needed to slow and reduce the spread of COVID-19. Unfortunately, we're here today because these measures have not led to significant reduction in COVID transmission throughout the Central Okanagan. Just in the past week, the outbreak has almost tripled, rising from about 320 cases when we declared the outbreak last Wednesday.
I thought they banned PCR tests.
1,200 cases today.
I have one of those.
We had over 700 active cases. We have 31 individuals who are hospitalized and 10 in critical care. We continue to see that the majority of the individuals who are new cases are unimmunized young adults, mostly ranging in age from 20 to 40 years of age. As COVID circulation continues to increase across our communities in the Central Okanagan, it's also begun to creep into our long-term care homes, and as has been mentioned, has led to the declaration of the 2 Central Okanagan long-term care facility outbreaks. This is impacting our staffing at hospitals and in the community. It's preventing people from accessing home and community care services, and it's beginning to impact healthcare services throughout the region. In other words, this is impacting everyone, and we're not moving the dial quickly enough with our immunizations. People who are not immunized at this point in time, I ask you to please take this seriously today and take these measures seriously. We really need your help to bring this outbreak under control. So given this new COVID activity that we are experiencing, new measures are required, as have been outlined, to take clear and direct action to slow the transmission across the Central Okanagan. This will resemble a circuit breaker measure where we pause some of the activities that are contributing to this rapid COVID-19 growth. So in addition to these new orders that have been announced today, we also need to continue to focus on our immunization. We're calling on all of the young adults living in our communities across Central Okanagan, especially for those of you who work in jobs where you interact with the public, to please come out and get your vaccine. We will make it as easy as we can for you to do that. It's the most effective way to bring this Central Okanagan outbreak under control.
Not everybody agrees.
We'll be continuing our immunization ground game wherever we can. This has included pop-up clinics at various settings across our communities, including farmers markets. We have the Kelowna Yacht Club in the downtown Kelowna area that's been very effective in seeing people accessing dose 1. And we'll also be focusing on our post-secondary institutions as we move closer to September. As well, immunizations are especially important as we approach the school year for our elementary and high school students. As we know, anyone born in 2009 or earlier is eligible for the vaccine, and we ask you to come out. I also want to remind everybody that we have reduced the interval in the Central Okanagan between the first and second doses to 28 days. So anyone who drops in now for vaccine can be immunized with their second dose by the start of the school
I don't know
season.
what that is.
Before I conclude, I want to thank everyone who has dropped in over the past week for their immunizations. We so appreciate your efforts, and please tell your friends and neighbors that they should be getting their
Kind of
vaccine
liquid
as
in
well.
there. You see
We've
that?
been working very closely with the BC Food and Restaurant Association, and we thank you. We thank the service industry members throughout the Central Okanagan, all of the businesses who are helping us, and, of course, our teams here across Superior Health who are working so hard right now.
It was an unopened box.
We're grateful for everyone's support. We know it's asking a lot to bring these restrictions back in place, and we're asking more of you right now.
This is happening right now. This is what they're talking about right now.
But I know that people across the interior and the Central Okanagan are resilient, and we will get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're happy to take your questions now.
As a reminder to reporters on the phone, please press star 1 to enter the queue. You will be limited to one question and one follow-up. Please also remember to take your phone off mute. You will not be audible until your name is called.
I don't know how this works.
Our first question today is from Keith Baldry, Global. Please go ahead.
Oh, hi, thanks for this. Speaking of the school year starting, I know yesterday you talked about how healthcare workers may face or maybe have certain vaccination rules in place that you're working on. I'm just wondering if that's going to apply to people working in the school system in the coming school year. Would teachers or support staff need to be vaccinated?
This is for nasal.
Obviously, we want everybody in the school setting who's eligible for vaccination to be immunized. And as I also mentioned yesterday, we are continuing to work with our committee provincially, with the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, with school superintendents, with teachers, with other school staff.
I just wanted to look under the microscope.
We will be coming up with the latest guidelines.
When I found it, I found two of them.
To the guidelines that we put out in June,
unopened,
coming out
on the road.
weeks. So all of those questions will be addressed.
I wanted to see what I could see.
Keith, did you have a follow-up?
But
Yes, on behalf of a colleague,
I haven't
you've
done
been
that
asked
yet.
this before recently. Just Quebec is now offering
Not that
a
I would
third
see
dose
anything,
to facilitate travel. I'm just wondering where we're at in terms of that situation.
Yeah, and we're not at this point. It is much more important for us to, as Sue called it, to continue our ground game, to get people immunized here, to stop transmission here. That is our focus. And the issue of what is being accepted for immunization for travel is
and
very
I'm trying to
much in
stay
flux.
positive, people,
And that
okay?
is in flux both across
Just
this
remember
country,
that, okay?
but we're working with Canada, we're influencing with our colleagues to the south in the United States, we're working as well with the WHO to ensure that that all of the WHO recognized vaccines are acceptable for travel in countries around the world. So I just tell people, be patient. There is no need now for a third dose. Things are changing rapidly in countries around the world as more and more
you know what
data
reminds me of?
Particularly the effectiveness
those,
of these schedules is becoming
Narcan
apparent
kits. Hold on a
people.
minute.
And Canada is leading in some ways around that, but we are not the only country that is using AstraZeneca, that's using mixed AstraZeneca and mRNA vaccines, that's using mRNA vaccines interchangeably. There are many other countries that are doing that too, and we are seeing that things are being revised by other countries on an almost daily basis. So these things will settle out over time.
Our next question is from Marcella Bernardo, News 1130. Please go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Henry. I have to ask you if you're starting to consider whether or not it's smart to tell people that
these
it's okay to no longer
unopened
wear a mask when you're going into
on the
a
street.
store or
Okay,
into
I
other
have two of
indoor
these
places,
people.
because we're seeing many
I
people
find
ignoring
these
those protocols, not just in the
in
Central
perfect
Okanagan,
good
but across
condition,
British Columbia, and it's causing a lot of parties
with everything
and headaches for
inside
people
them
who
on the
wish that we
street.
would've just kept that mask mandate in place.
Okay, this is what taxpayers are paying for, people. These are Narcan kits.
Because
Okay?
in no way did we ever say that it's not.
Do you see? This is an unused Narcan kit.
People must and should wear masks in indoor public
Okay?
spaces, particularly when you're around people. If it's crowded indoor
Unused
spaces where we know this
Narcan
virus
kit.
can be transmitted, that remains
Another
the
unused
recommendation,
Narcan.
that
That's
remains
two
in place,
two
that remains
unused
what
Narcan
people
kits.
should be doing, and it is mandated in the Central
Okay?
Okanagan right now.
This is what taxpayers are paying for
Marcella, did you have a follow-up?
for them to be tossed out on the streets.
I have to ask this as well,
Okay?
because I know I've probably asked this
Technically,
a million times.
the only
in past
reason that
year
they
and a
brought
half,
them in was because of fentanyl. It only can reverse the effects of fentanyl before the person goes into the stage of the death rattle.
How can we ensure that if people are going to do this to protect
if there was no fentanyl, there would be none of this stuff.
They're not letting this virus spread as rapidly as it has.
If there's not somebody there to inject you, if you should die or go into overdose with fentanyl, you're toast. Okay? Because
settings, and we do very rarely see that transmission.
You take a puff, depending on how much is in there, in terms of fentanyl, that's it. You're toast. Okay? I've talked to enough people that are out in the streets struggling with this stuff who use these things to know. So if there's not somebody there to do this for you, it's a waste of taxpayers' money. Okay? It sure in the hell didn't help Shemay.
Because we hear again from staff that it can be very challenging, particularly later in the night when people have a bit to drink and
are being tossed out on the road.
That is where we're
unopened.
That's where we've been seeing transmission.
I have 2 of them,
and that's why we're focusing
I brought them home because I was curious to see what was inside, and with the rumors going around with those little sticks. So I plan on, at some point, looking under the microscope to see if I find anything.
We have had our local teams out
to dispel any myths, that is.
Throughout last weekend. So these are environmental health.
I'm not trying to spread rumors here, okay?
Alongside WorkSafe BC, and we've had great support from the municipality as well.
This is what taxpayers are paying for, and they're ending up literally on the road.
In the evening and later into the night. To provide education, and this will continue through this weekend. It will provide education on the measures and requirements of the orders.
Okay.
And for the most part, our teams.
It doesn't sound like anything has really changed. Hold on a minute.
With the measures and orders, and we really have relied on the cooperation of the BC Restaurant and Food Association.
Okay. It's like walking on tulip petals. You gotta be careful what you say and how you say it. But that's the thing. This is supposed to be a live stream on the now, in terms of it's going on right now. I didn't go as far as to see if it was a pre-recorded live stream and blah, 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 right? Because honestly, I'm trying to avoid watching them. But now that I'm back on YouTube, they're coming up through my notifications, and I'm like, not now, I don't want to listen, not now, I don't want to listen. Oh, just take a, right? You got to know what's going on in your province, even though I just did a video like not even a week ago, and it's on BitChute. So I will link that video into my description if you want to watch it, because I'm not going to re-upload it onto YouTube, right? I don't think so. But this one, obviously, I'm going to upload, because listening to what we just heard, people, and I hope you heard it, because my computer speaker is over there and I'm over here, right? But just listening to what we heard and, being in the loop with the greater community in terms of, outsourcing that information from different states in the United States of America, different countries, some of the information coming in from the UK or from Australia or, places like that, right? And, people who are more educated on subject matter than I myself, or who are doing more in-depth interpretations of studies. It's one thing saying, oh, well, the world study says everything's fine, let's move on. It's another thing when somebody comes with a world study and then takes the time to interpret it so that you have a better understanding of what it actually means, versus leaving it open to complete speculation, because a world study without any explanation could mean anything, people. And this is what we're getting in BC. Nothing of substance. Just, oh, well, the world study says everything's fine, but don't worry, we're monitoring it. But we're right back to where we started from. Everything's going out of control real fast, and we need to start locking everybody up with this and doing this and that, back to this restriction and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, holy shit, am I hearing this correctly? Right? Like, well, what have people been doing for a year and a half? They had 1 month of freedom. Thinking they had 1 month of freedom. Thinking, people. Right? You know? And here I am, on my end. I spent, I told Tisha at least $2,000 worth on food, people. In the last month. I bought lots of oats, which now that I'm back up on YouTube, you're going to see me putting those oats and whatnot, those grains, those peas, chickpeas, whatever it was, that costed me $2,000, okay, into mason jars, and I'm going to vacuum seal them, people. And I'm putting them away into storage. Okay? And as I do that, I'm making preparations to basically avoid the grocery store for not completely, but for, a big part for 6 months to a year. One, to hopefully help pay down my bills, because I don't need to go to the grocery store, people. All I have to do is go into my food storage and grab myself a jar of whatever, right? And, and get ready for court in September of 2022, right? As I hold my government to account for what's happened to my family over a period of years, right? So I have to go into court with some kind of money because I'm expected to pay for the courtroom, people, okay? And we know the last time I went to court asking for a waiver of fees, right? Andrew the Dragon from Fraser Health Authority turned it into a little mini trial, brought in his case law, right? Obviously was wheeling and dealing with the judge. And they basically threw it out, people, because the judge sent me to the cops. That wasn't a judgment as to whether I qualified to waiver a $200 payment in order to go in front of a 3-panel appeal judge. 3 of them. I would have went in front of 3 judges at one time. The only thing that stopped me is I didn't pay the $200 myself. I went in front of a judge asking to have that particular fee wavered, and they took advantage of me because they discriminated against my family. Okay. So this time, whatever money I'll have, I'll make sure it's hard, cold cash. And when I go and stand in front of whatever judge I'm in front of, I'll slap the money down where I'm standing next to the provincial lawyers and say, that's all I have, Your Honor. But I wanted to make sure I had food in the house in 2022, September of 2022. So I went off and bought a whole bunch of grains and that kind of stuff, right? I haven't gotten into vacuum sealing them into jars yet, people. But I will be doing that, and that's going to be another one of those YouTube moments. In that situation, you know what? I'd probably take those videos. I'm wondering if I should be uploading this on BitChute at the same time after the fact. Because I know that when I wasn't on YouTube, I didn't go back much on YouTube, people. There was no desire to go. I was on BitChute going through those videos. Every now and then I went on to Brighton. The only reason I went on to YouTube was, one, I wanted to hear what was going on in my province right from the horse's mouth in terms of, what we just heard. And every now and then checking up on that girl to see what the hell she was doing with the federal trademarks. basically, right? But outside of that, I wasn't watching no videos, nothing. So, you know, I can't expect people from BitChute just to go over to YouTube to watch my videos, right? So I'm thinking, well, maybe you should continue uploading videos onto BitChute, right? For that particular crowd, out of courtesy to them, because I've been in that situation like them. Many of them have been kicked off of YouTube, so why the hell are they going to go onto YouTube to watch my videos? They're not, people. But if I upload them onto BitChute, they might come across them and they might watch them. Which, for me, you know, the more I can encourage those that are not the predator class to prepare, whether it's a natural disaster or whether it's for a man-made disaster, right, in terms of food storage, well, then that makes me feel good. So for that reason, I would put this video up on BitChute right along with probably the rest of my videos, because right now we got YouTube back up on, right up at the top where they like to be, wink wink, leading the pack, right? I mean, they have seniority, let's face it. They've been there for 11 years, so they wanted to make sure they stayed where they belonged, right? I'm just being silly right now, right? But you Google New Nations Unity, the first thing you're going to see is YouTube, right? Again, they earned their spot in life, right? Then we've got BitChute right up underneath them, coming in on the ranks, right? So, you know, that's good, right? And then just whatever. And, you know, I'm like, well, you've been in their shoes before. You didn't want to go to YouTube and seek out videos, right? You were quite comfortable just to stay where you were for the most part. And so, yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to have to probably upload this onto BitChute and just keep with that. Not because I'm trying to spam, not because I'm trying to get more people to watch my videos or whatever. It's just more to inspire people to, I don't want to say fight the good fight, but basically fight the good fight. And the first fight that you need to fight is to make sure that you have food in your house. And I just happen to show you here and there how to do it, right? I mean, I could have taken that $2,000, put it in the bank, and saved it for court. Don't think I didn't think about it, because I did, people. But I chose my family first. And now that my family is good for food, assuming that the house doesn't implode from the inside because of what our governments, more than one, are doing, I should be able to weather any kind of storm when it comes to a food shortage for quite a long time, okay? And that's the point of the videos, when I do food videos. So, we're going to end it on that. We're going to leave it real short, okay? And we're going to pick up with a new video. I'm just going to show you where I'm at with things, okay? Hold on. Here we go. There. I washed my jars, right? You can see, you wash, right? Nice. And then I will probably do this again with the sausage that I have in my freezer, because I want to free up a little bit of freezer space. But I think before I do that, I should probably open up one jar and taste it and see if I even like it. The soup is good, right? Here we've got the blueberries, batch 1. Now I'm going into batch 2, because I've got that other box that just better to cook. So I'm going to take the time to do this, and because the apples are dropping, wait till you see the apples, people. Oh, I got to get motivated on this. Whew, sometimes it's so hard to get motivated, especially when you listen to the things that we just heard. Okay? And this is another reason why I do these videos, because everybody is listening to the same kind of yoki okie dokie, okay? And we're all feeling the same pressure, right? And all of us are faltering with our responsibilities, but this is where you just gotta hang in there, because if you do one jar at a time, it won't be long before you have enough to get you by even for a little while longer than if you had nothing. Okay, so these are the first batches of beans that I did. This would be up on BitChute. I will just provide the link for that video if you want to see them. And then I will label, take everything downstairs, and I'll be doing apples for Amari. Apple blueberry, apple blackberry, apple sauce, and anything else that comes apple grape, because those work really good for Amari. And then, of course, you're going to see this vacuum seal with the oats. I got several different kinds of oats. I've got the quinoa, still have to do. I've got peas, yellow peas, green peas, organic chickpeas. So I'm going to end this video on this, and I will provide the link to what we were just listening to, so that if you want to go listen to it, you can. Right? But again, it's nothing for these individuals to use taxpayers' money saying that they're helping people, when in fact these were on the road, people. Why would I have them? Where did I get them from? Oh, you're probably wondering why I'm keeping this. Well, because the next time I go out and about, which will be soon because I have to go to the post office, mail off Lucy's box, April's box, and I'm going to make up a little box for Lady P and send out her books again with a few other little treasures in that box. And when I do that, I'll be out in the streets where there are actual homeless people who could benefit from this, assuming that somebody is there to help them with it. They can't do this on their own when they're ODing, and the government knows it. But it's a feel-good. We're trying to help them. No, people. You want to help them? Get rid of the fentanyl off the street, okay? That's how you'll help them. You want to help them? Put away those, lock them up for life for the ones that use fentanyl as murder, as a murder weapon, okay? Then you're helping the people. Outside of that, this is just wasting taxpayers' money. Even though it does save lives from time to time, it's like Sierra. She had 1,000 deaths, people, with or without this. You know how many times Sierra was Narcaned with this crap? So much so that her brain just rotted inside her skull to the point where she was lured to her death and died. But the point is she died 1,000 times before her actual death because of the medical negligence that goes on in this province when it relates to inadequate health care services, to which, for whatever's been going on, doesn't seem to be working now that everybody's gearing up to be under lock and key, I guess. So we'll just leave it on that.
On for some time.
Healthcare workers don't want to get vaccinated.
Particularly in long-term care, very early on for immunization, because we knew how devastating this virus can be in all of its strains. And early on, there was a lot of people who had questions, and that's understandable. We now know a whole lot more, and as I've said repeatedly, it is incumbent on us as healthcare workers to do everything, both to keep ourselves healthy so so that we can serve the people who need us, but also to ensure that we're protecting those that we are serving, and particularly in long-term care. So yes, my expectation is that every healthcare worker in long-term care will be immunized unless they have a valid medical reason why that can't be possible, and we are working to that aim. I agree with you that we need to do more to make sure that people's questions are answered, to make sure that access is there, and now we are in that place in our immunization program where we have vaccine, we have a lot of information about the safety and effectiveness of these vaccines, and this is the time where people need to be immunized, and particularly in long-term care.
They've done all that already, people.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you very much.
Right? They've done all that. They act like they've never done it yet. They're acting like it was the first time that they're going to do this. So we've gone full circle as we pretend that we have done nothing between that duration. I don't get it, people. Okay, August 5th, 2021, second video of the day. For old time's sake, people. So we're just going to stick with the format with canning this meat that Pastor Granny gave me. Now, this pork neck bone stock and with the little pork chop bones and stuff, oh, you can't imagine how tasty it is. It's exactly what I wanted. It's not too strong and it's not too mild. And if you can see, it's nice and clear. I've already strained it. So look how nice and clear that is. So when you eventually put your meat into your jars and then you use this instead of water, the gravy that's going to come out of this, people, is going to be so, so good. So we're just going to focus on what we're doing here. We're going to try and keep it short and simple. So I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, so here we go. Now, anytime you do meat in a pint-sized jar, you're looking at 75 minutes. If it's a quart, it's 90 minutes. Fish goes up to 100, preferably 110 minutes. You can do between 100 and 110 for fish. Okay, so I like my quart size. They work really good for Mari, Andre, and myself for a meal with gravy. So, so good. So, I have more jars if I need them, which actually I might, so I should probably wash them because I got that little bit of pork. So this is what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to cut these into 1-inch chunks. Pretty much all of it. Right? And then I think I'm going to get myself one of my woks, dust them off, and I'm going to give them a quick stir fry just to, I don't know, either sear them a little bit, which would be nice, or remove a little bit of the fat, right? And I'm going to do the same thing with that pork, half cook it. Then I'm going to fill up my jars, and then I'm going to use this delicious broth. So hold on. Okay, so this brand of ham garlic sausage, old-fashioned, I'm telling you, tasty, 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 people. It was the same thing with the pepperoni, you can see. Oh, it's so good. So what I've done, right, about 1 inch, okay, and then, right, took off the skin from this, because it, you know, right, not from this though, all right. So now, what I'm going to do is, I'll whip out a wok. I'm going to start, I don't know, I got a bigger wok. I should actually bring out the bigger wok. And I'm just going to stir fry it for a little while. Heat them up. Right, cook off a little bit of the grease. This is not greasy at all. It's really good, people. Like, it's going to go so well with this. Like, so, so good. And then after that's done, maybe what I'll do is I'll leave it in the wok. Just put the wok there and then bring another wok and then cook up that pork with some salt. Basically salt. Right? And that's probably about it. Maybe a tad bit of pepper, but not too much. And then combine the two. Fill up my jars. Fill it up with the broth. Okay, hold on. So yeah, just going on memory here. Okay? When you're canning raw meat with broth, you don't necessarily put liquid in it. Okay? It releases its own juices. So if you're going to put, say, raw chicken in here and try and fill it up with a bunch of water or broth, you know, it's all going to overflow when you cook, right? So you gotta kind of guesstimate, right, in terms of how much liquid you're putting in your jar. But because I'm cooking that pork halfway in the wok after I'm done, I'm just searing this a little bit, right? That's why I just want to show you. You got to keep turning. All right. Otherwise, you're going to start burning it. You don't want to burn it. You just want to sear it. All right. A little bit, just to get that flavor going, right? But yeah, you kind of want to, if you're using a broth, you kind of want to at least half cook your meat, if not have it fully cooked. Because you can can fully cooked meat, right, with broth. I don't know if this is making a difference in removing the fat from the sausage, but I don't think there's a lot of fat in this sausage, per se, right? It's going along good. See? I gotta watch my burner. Get this burner. See, you just, little spots here and there. I just keep turning them around, right? It will just add that little extra flavor. That's all it's going to do. So hold on. Okay, so I don't know how many jars I'm going to get, but I think there's 12 here, right? If I need to go hunt, I can hunt some more. So again, right, I use the same wok. This is just that Himalayan sea salt, right? I'm not going to put too much in there, only because it's meat, right? You can see this is fine coarse. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit in there, right? Just a little bit. It doesn't really need it, but because it's meat, you kind of want to set it into the meat, right? So you can see I didn't even use it all. And I'm only going to half cook it, people. That's all. Right? And then I'm going to mix it in with that. But of course, once you do that, you're not going to be able to sit and pick and eat this, right? So if you want something, you better take it out now before you put that in there. So good. Hold on. Okay, so that's it. Now it's going into jars. All right. I don't know, people. I took some Tylenol. You think my headache would go away, and it's not. But anyway, just try and mix match. That's what I'm doing. Right? A little bit of everything. Why not? All right. And you want to put them in there loosely. Okay? You don't want to pack them in because you want the heat to travel through the liquid. Okay? It's important that the heat travel, all right, through the liquid. Okay? So hold on a minute. So as I'm finishing up with this here, you know, people, I think I'm going to have to go see my family doctor. I hate to say it, but I need to go see the eye specialist. Yeah, I have to get a referral for that. And I'm never going to get another family doctor. I hope he doesn't turn me away. The one that said, take me to court. For anyone who's been watching my videos, we know that story, right? So, I don't know, over the next little while, I think I'm going to have to make an effort to try and go see my family doctor and get a referral to go see the eye specialist. And I can't have cataract surgery right now because I have to work in the yard, but maybe I can plan for it in the winter time, because I need cataract surgery. I needed that, a couple years ago, and I need the better drops. These generic drops, it's hard to use the bottle, and I used some last night because I still have a little bit, and like my eyes are just like, oh, you don't know. I got this headache. Right. Tylenol not making it go away. So I got 9 jars. Not bad. But you know what I did? Right? I put everything in the jars. Right? Pretty much balance it all out. I put the liquid in there. I have to push down just a little bit, right? You don't really tight, but just a little bit, right? Do that. Figure, okay, now I'm done, and what do? I start licking my fingers. Oh, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, we've got some pork in there that hasn't been fully cooked. But it should be okay. If I don't come back online, we know what happened. Right? Looking pretty good. Tasting pretty good. I'm having problems with my burner, but if I get it just in the right spot, it seems to work. I don't hear nothing. I kind of see something there. So I'll show you. See? Right? About an inch head space. Now, if the meat was raw, okay, you're not supposed to put raw meat in with a bunch of liquid, but I have done in the past, which you can see on YouTube now. I've done raw meat with some broth to compensate for when, if you just put the raw chicken into a jar, you're not going to get as much broth as you would like. Whereas if you put raw chicken into the jar and then maybe half a jar of broth, then you get more broth, right? In this situation, I don't think there's going to be a lot of leachage in terms of as it's cooking. But the secret to this kind of stuff is you just don't screw on your band real tight. Because if there's too much, it evaporates through, right? Right? It will escape. And if it's that full, it's going to overflow. I mean, I haven't had that many broken jars, but the only reason a jar would crack in a canner would be because you didn't allow it to vent, right, with the steam and everything that's inside. So it's just finger tight or a little less than finger tight. Hold on. Okay, so basically what's happening here is I'm done. We've got 9 jars of sausage, between sausage, pepperoni, and pork. And I just mixed them all up, okay? I did put a little bit too much broth in, because some was pushed out into the canner, because the meat themselves were liquefying in terms of the fat, and the partial raw pork added more liquid into the jar, which forced liquid out, right? Whereas with this one, which I just took out now, it's so hot nobody wants soup, so it just made more sense to take what I had left over and divide it between 5 jars, as you can see. And what it is the carrot that I stewed, the vegetables, right? I cut up the celery, fished out the garlic, threw in a few onion slices that was in the pot, picked off the meat off the bone, and then just used that as the filler in terms of, you can't really call it soup, but it wouldn't take much to put either rice in it, you know, or some lentils, or you could have beans and to add. So when you put this into a pot, you just what you want. Okay, so now it's August 6th, next day, and we're moving along, okay? Apparently, we've got a whole bunch of forest fires out here in British Columbia, Canada. Okay.
Love you.
Yeah, love you too.
It is unacceptable for a hotel with a voucher issued
So,
by BC
these are all greasy, okay? This is the one with the sausage. The sausage degreased as it was cooking, and then, right? So, you have to wash these really good. Alright, you take lukewarm, soapy water in the sink, right? About that much. You put your jars in the sink
gymnasiums or recreational centers such as we've used in the past, whether it's 2017
with the soap to cut the grease. You take a toothbrush, a soft toothbrush, and you scrub in here just a little bit,
and obviously, I think for most people, the preference
you
is
know,
somewhere where they know, and ideally,
just lightly in there, very, very lightly,
we
right?
strongly encourage that as well.
And then rinse it off really, really good. Air dry it. Because if you don't do that, if you come and you just wipe, right, after you put your jar in food storage, the air oxidizes what's on the jar, right? So that's why it's just, I find myself personally, it's best to put them in the sink with the soapy water, give them a good scrub, right? Like not a scrub, but you know, with the rag and then the toothbrush, and run them underneath nice clean water, and then this way you don't get too much left on the jar. So when it sits in long-term food storage, you know, you come, you touch, and you're like, ooh, what's that? Oh, it's probably something that you missed when you were cleaning it, right? So, because it's been so hot, instead of making soup, I just made it so that it's half made, right? And the broth is really good. This just has the neck bone meat in it with the carrot and the celery and a little bit of onion and whatever was in that pot when I was making the broth. Okay, that's basically what that's all about. So when it comes time to open it up, you can just throw in a few lentils, a little bit of rice, or you could put potatoes in it if you wanted, right? You know. So now my hands are all greasy, so I'm going to go and wash these jars and then we're going to come back. So hold on.